Feminist Criticism by Ruby Tang and Emily Lu. To start this video, we'll give a general overview of what's going to be covered. First, we will go over traditional gender roles. Then we will summarize some premises of feminism. And finally, we will go over how to overcome patriarchy, the sexist social system that has manifested itself in our society. So you might ask, what is feminist criticism? To summarize a complex idea into a more simple one, feminist literary criticism is a school of literary criticism that uses feminist ideology and premises in order to both analyze and criticize literary works. Before we get into the major concepts expressed by feminist literary critics, we must recognize any misconceptions that we may possess. Try to keep an open mind, don't oversimplify, and look at the bigger picture. Now we will give brief definitions of key terminology relevant to this school of literary criticism. A patriarchal woman, according to Lois Tyson, the author of the book Critical Theory Today, is a woman who has internalized the norms and values of patriarchy, which can be defined as any culture that privileges men by promoting traditional gender roles. But what is the patriarchy, you might ask? The patriarchy is the social system in which the men hold the vast majority of powerful positions and roles in leadership, authority, property, privilege, family dynamic, and more. It is found in most modern societies and has been ingrained into our society. Whether you are aware of it or not, the patriarchy and the ideology that it promotes have affected your worldview in one way or another. Additionally, it is important to recognize social constructionism, which we'll use to refer to the construction of traditional gender roles and other expectations of people based on their gender, sexuality, and other aspects of their identity.
Now we will go over traditional gender roles. While men are portrayed as rational, protective, strong, and level-headed, women are perceived as incapable of taming their emotions, weak, and submissive. These socially constructed assumptions can often be incredibly damaging to the person. These gender roles can be used to justify paying a woman 55 cents to 77 cents to a man's $1. While there are some protection laws against this, employers can sidestep this by giving the woman a different job title. You may not recognize it, but patriarchal programming appears everywhere in your daily lives, especially in the media. In the photo on the right, Meghan Trainor in her music video Dear Future Husband is shown posing as a perfect housewife wearing an apron in the kitchen and cleaning the floor. Additionally, upon Google searching for mathematicians, all of the search results are men. From a young age, girls are told that they don't need math and aren't expected to be good at it, resulting in a vicious cycle ending with fewer women in math and science fields. The patriarchy, after nurturing girls to not care about math, then uses their incompetence in these fields as a means of promoting the traditional gender role that women aren't supposed to be as smart or logical or as successful as men. Traditional gender roles are also harmful to men, enforcing the ideology that men can't show emotion, be sympathetic, and much more. However, the overall rhetoric is still anti-female, as traits that are seen as more feminine are considered undesirable in men. People say things like, "you run like a girl," or "stop being such a sissy." These associate women with bad qualities and can be incredibly damaging. In order to reinforce traditional gender roles for women, society views women based on how well they submit to its expectations and portrays women who reject these roles as whores and bitches. Good girls are defined as the women that fit within what's expected of them and are thus used by the patriarchy to convince other women to behave in the same manner, while bad girls are defined as women that stray from societal expectations and exhibit more masculine traits such as being sexually promiscuous.
Now we will summarize some feminist premises. Pronouns. In writing, we almost always use him, her to refer to a person in general. Feminists feel that this is an issue because it represents seeing life through a male perspective, standardizing this for everyone. However, some view the concern as trivial or argue that the convention is necessary to maintain the flow of language. By doing so, they are oversimplifying the issue, not understanding that feminists dislike this convention of language because it was built on the century-old perception that women are inferior to men. Feminist criticism has historically also been used to analyze the literary world. An expert on F. Scott Fitzgerald said that the 1920s was an age of achievement and used 12 authors as examples. Only one of them was female. This and the sad reality that many people recognize few names of talented female writers reflects widespread marginalization of women and their literary works. Throughout history, women were discriminated against on the basis that their writing didn't possess the ability to connect to all of its readers, as the universal standard for the average reader was a male. The male point of view is also considered the universal norm for many other things, like filmography and medical drug testing. For example, in movies, the female character is eroticized as if the moviegoer were male. And in modern medicine, drug testing is done solely on male patients, and as a result, female users may experience other side effects that the male patients did not. The patriarchy also uses biological differences to justify differential treatment of men and women, an idea called biological essentialism. Many feminists celebrate the differences between the bodies of males and females, but they don't agree that such differences as physical size, shape, and body chemistry make men naturally superior to women. For example, more intelligent, more logical, more courageous, or better leaders. According to feminists, gender is merely a social construct. Nothing is inherently masculine or feminine, and people were just taught to perceive certain traits as pertaining to certain genders. Gender, in contrast to sex, is based on what one represents him or herself as rather than biological determination. Feminists also believe that feminist activism is ultimately carried out in the attempt to alter the world for the better by furthering women's equality. For example, feminists advocate for better family policies such as nutrition and health care for mothers and their babies, parental leave, affordable daycare, and more.
Now we will discuss how to get beyond patriarchy. In order to get past patriarchy and overcome everything that has been ingrained into our minds since birth, we must overlook traditional gender roles, make a true effort to understand how the patriarchy has negatively affected men and women throughout history, and both recognize and reject social constructs and ideology that were built on false assumptions. So what are the values of feminist literary criticism? The value of feminist literary criticism is that it is able to use ideology and principles embodied by feminism to analyze what message certain artistic productions, including books, plays, and films, send out about women and what effects they may produce relating to the perception of women in society, such as whether they should be considered as equals, inferiors, superiors, and more. It also allows the critics to consider how important entities like the patriarchy influence certain aspects of text, since the oppression of women economically, socially, politically, and psychologically is a major component of many literary masterpieces. How is feminist criticism related to other schools of literary criticism? Because different aspects of an individual's identity cannot be separated from each other, like socioeconomic class, nationality, sexual orientation, and more, other schools of literary criticism often must be used in conjunction with feminist criticism to successfully analyze a text. For example, African American criticism combined with feminist criticism is commonly utilized because gender oppression and racial oppression cannot be considered separately. How is feminist criticism limited in its analysis? The limitations of feminist criticism are that feminist criticism on its own often is not sufficient to meaningfully analyze a text, as there are many more aspects of one's individual identity not limited to just their gender. When multiple aspects of one's identity mesh together and create one unique form of oppression, feminist criticism becomes limited in the sense that it alone cannot help the reader fully understand the true essence of the text. And that concludes our video about feminist criticism. We hope it was very informative and encourage you to be more aware of any misconceptions you have about feminism, any assumptions you may be making about people, and more.
Thank you.